Well, after months of speculation, President Trump is nominating former Fed Governor Kevin Warsh to lead the central bank. Warsh is expected to kickstart the president's transformation of the Fed. Let's go to Edward Lawrence at the White House to break down all the news for us. Edward.
Yeah, Brian, and this came down to relationships and connections for President Trump. Now, Kevin Warsh was on the Federal Reserve Board of Governors from 2006 to 2011. Now, in that time, he was known as being very hawkish. In fact, in 2008, he pushed the rate hikes, actually, in the wake of the housing crisis. So I asked the president about that moments ago. Did you have any concerns about his hawkish history of pushing for rate hikes?
He's going to want to do the same thing. I think that, yeah, I've had times when I think you've had to really have rate hikes too. But he's very smart, very good, strong, young, pretty young, and I think he's going to do good.
So Warsh says that his views have now evolved, and he says, or he hints, that he's more in line with President Trump. Are you concerned, Mr. President, about the confirmation hearings? We've heard Senator Tillis.
No.
You think with the DOJ investigation?
This is in the whole country. I would say that this was the perfect candidate. This was not a surprise or anything. This was the man that's most qualified.
Now, the business community coming out behind Warsh today. He's been on the UPS board of directors for about 14 years. The CEO said in his statement that he has been an invaluable member of the board, adding, on behalf of our more than 400,000 employees, we celebrate his nomination and willingness to serve our country in this key role. The CEO of Chevron saying this, having known Kevin Warsh for decades, he's uniquely prepared in judgment, experience, and temperament to serve our country at this critical time. Now, Warsh will be going into the seat that Stephen Myron currently has because the term of that seat is up on Saturday. Back to you guys.
Okay, Edward, thanks for that report, sir. Yeah. Chris Ferrone, the guy who looks at all the numbers in the market and only tells us what the market tells us. What's the market telling us about Kevin Warsh?
Well, I think the market's going to like this. And, when you think about the role of Fed chair, what do you want? You want someone imaginative, someone intellectually flexible. And I think Mr. Warsh checks all those boxes. You go back to, 2008, he was actually very quick to change course and get on the easier side of things. It was really, 2011, 2012, the idea that the financial emergency had long passed, where he was advocating for tighter policy, which I think when we look back at, why are we sitting here with, gross inequality, I think it's the Federal Reserve played a very big role in that over the last 10 or 15 years because policy was kept so easy for so long. Then you fast forward to 2018, and he was very early in calling for rate cuts as Powell, frankly, stayed too tight too long. And in 20, into COVID, was very aggressive on the easing side. So I think with anyone in a kind of important position where the market is ultimately the one that calls the shots, you want to be open-minded, you want to be flexible. I think Warsh checks those boxes.
Interesting. So you see him, I think the conventional wisdom, and I inherited this, is that he's the hawk. And I think what you're saying is the market doesn't view him necessarily as the hawk. They view him as a guy who can kind of tack with where the seas of the moment need him to go. Is that a better metaphor for
I think that's appropriate. And that's what you want out of the Fed chair or a Treasury secretary. You want someone with respect for the market. I think what's interesting when you look at the response today, put equities aside for a moment, bond yields modest. Maybe up a basis point or two. We had a hot PPI. But I think on balance, particularly on the short end, you have 2-year yields working lower. Look at like December 27 Fed fund futures. Yields actually moving lower there. So I think the market does not view this as some hawkish pick. I think the market views Warsh as a pragmatist, as someone who's intellectually flexible and who's very imaginative. And I want to emphasize imaginative. When I think you're in the role of Treasury Secretary or Fed chair, having an imagination of how the world could change is so important. And you think about this productivity boom that we're in the middle of here. Return to the mid-1990s where you had high growth, low inflation, a pretty good environment.
I don't want to stick with you forever, but just real quick, what about metals? Like, what is that telling you about what the market thinks about Powell?
Well, I mean, I think what we had in the precious metal space over the last number of weeks, and you never know the hour or the moment, as they say, but it was about as big of a blow-off in anything that we've seen, probably since bonds in 2020.
Okay.
I mean, silver at one point was 150% above its 200-day moving average. That's right up there with the Hunt brothers escapade in the late 70s, early 80s. You did 50 billion notional on SLV one day this week. A typical day would be 1 billion notional, so 50x average daily volume there. I mean, this is blow-off conditions in the metals.
Okay. Taylor, I want to talk about the companies, too, because we didn't talk about that, I don't think, the last hour. How many companies came out?
Yeah.
And I guess, I don't know. I couldn't rack my brain to think about the last time we had a Fed chair and how many companies came out and really had some cheerleading words. But, like, I guess Chevron, UPS, I think I saw something on Apple, maybe Tim Cook weighed in. What do you make of that?
I like it. I think the business community is eager for stability. They're eager to know who's in charge. And you need someone, I like the idea of imaginative. I would use the word nimble, who can respond quickly. And I think the business community is eager for clarity and gravitas, right? And maybe that is something that he brings to this role. It's also interesting when you think about how he wants to kind of get rid of forward guidance, if you will. He says that the Fed talks too much, and I wonder if that's sort of a business, I don't know how the business community will respond to that, but that's also another way that he can be nimble. If you're not locked into this sort of dumb dot plot, and look, I'm a big fan of the dot plots, no one actually knows what rates are going to be a year or two from now. So when we're engaging in these like pretend dots, does that psychologically not allow a Fed to be as nimble and be able to pivot to changing conditions on the fly? I don't know, but he's talked about maybe getting rid of forward guidance and just letting us respond to conditions as they come. And on the QE stuff, it's interesting. He's come out a lot against QE infinity. He said that he was on board with QE1, but really the use of the balance sheet in the last 15 years is really where he has his problems, and that's the hawk part of him, where he doesn't like QE2 and QE infinity and all the multiple rounds. And so that's what I like, is the ability to pivot. If you want to do QE1, great, but then we don't need to do QE2, QE3, ZERP and NERP forever. Let's pivot as the times change.
So, Dagan, I was going to throw you a Jerome Powell shot, but I kind of feel like maybe you want to interact with Chris Verone a little bit, because I just feel like there could be some good interaction.
I have a lot of, businesses putting out all these statements about Kevin Warsh. They're puckering up and smooching President Trump's butt.
They're smooching.
That is all they're doing. Rightfully so. That's exactly what they should do, because President Trump has showed, like, I'll meddle in your business, happily so. I will use my bully pulpit, a ginormous one, and like you play ball, like you get in line with the pro-business, pro-economic agenda, or, I have a lot of power. I'm the President of the United States, a lot of regulatory power. And that's from Tim Cook all the way down. So, of course, they're like, oh, we love you. We love your pick, President Trump. Would you like some Diet Coke? I'll go get that for you, too.
No, he's having broccoli now. Healthy.
That. I was going to ask you, I'm going to say that question. One thing about the balance sheet, the Fed just started buying short-term treasuries again to the tune, what is it? It's like $35 billion a month. Isn't that what it is?
I thought 20. I could be wrong.
Okay.
Chris might know.
It's in that ballpark.
So they're back in the business of meddling, if you will. So Warsh has talked about reducing the balance sheet. We went pre-financial crisis, $800 billion to roughly $9 trillion. The balance sheet is $6.6 trillion. So you mean to tell me that he's going to reduce the balance sheet and the markets are going to like that, and that's going to be great for the economy? Because we are in a situation now where we're so deeply in debt as a nation. $10 trillion is come and due. It has to be rolled over just in the next year. And a lot of that is in short bills. You know, you're going to be reducing the balance sheet in the face of that. Okay.
Now, I want
That's
to.
all.
40 billion. Well,
40,
well said.
40
Let
billion.
me make a suggestion on kind of how the market's going to react. We'll get to that in the next block. We can do a lot of market stuff there. Before we get out of this block, Jackie, I'm going to give you some secondhand Jerome Powell
I'll take
sound.
it.
Okay?
Take it off the
Can we
table.
please
Lucky
play
day.
Jerome Powell?
I'm wondering what advice you have for whoever your successor might be.
Honestly, I'd say a couple of things. One is stay out of elected politics. Don't get pulled into elected politics. Don't do it.
Jackie.
Do as I say, not as I do. Thanks so much for the tip, Jerome. I'm sure Kevin Warsh knows better than to do the kinds of things that you did that were very political and very obvious to folks with respect to timing and everything else. And some of the things that you did that landed yourself in some pretty hot water, which is only up the ante. I think that whole situation with him in the Fed building needs to be de-escalated at this point, and we all need to move forward. And we need to focus on somebody coming in. You've all summarized the things that he can do. And I'll just add that the thing that I like about him is that he seems like he will read the markets at the time. He's not going to put his heels in the sand and dig them in on a particular position because he thinks that that is right. If we scale back a little bit on the balance sheet, but, and I just put this out there as a question, but the growth is there. Maybe that is where some of the balance comes from. That's what I'm hoping to see. So we'll see. Let's give him a fair chance.
Jake, I think the balance sheet concerns are incomplete because we're missing the other half of the equation. Why did the Fed balance sheet have to expand over the last decade? Because we forced banks to basically shrink their own balance sheets. So part of the whole story here out of this administration is bank deregulation. That will be the big story in 2026. So it allows bank balance sheets to grow. They can hold less capital and allows the Fed balance sheet to contract at the same time. So I think people, when they talk about the Fed balance sheet shrinking, we're not talking about it in a vacuum. We're talking about it with financial deregulation, which is an incredibly powerful thing here. That's why I think the banks are trading well today. They traded well yesterday. They've been leadership.
So that's not taking steps backwards. That's
no, it's moving forward.
positive, right?
Yeah, I mean, and we're, I think in a lot of respects, relinquishing our dependence on the Fed balance sheet and we're privatizing it, which
Well, how do you
is.
cut rates, though, and refinance all this debt and find buyers for it?
Yeah, listen, I think if you look at where the two, we talked about what's the market rate, right? The market rate, the two-year yield is about 340, 350 right now.
So
you look at where Fed funds futures are at the end of next year, they're about 330. I think that's ultimately where policy is going. That's not extreme from here.
Well, Trump said he wants them at half of 1% yesterday.
Well,
we know that's he's Greenlanding.
I think he was Greenlanding that one.
But I'm saying that he probably expects something a little bit different from Kevin Warsh than
Well, I bet we're going to find out one way or the other.
after he's confirmed.
Pretty loud and clear. Taylor, my teeth are feeling like they're cleaner already. You're looking at Colgate and Church and Dwight. What's going on?
So I want Chris's thoughts
Yeah.
on staples. So Colgate, they are up, Brian, on oral care, and
See?
Jackie on pet nutrition.
Yes.
They are struggling with the skin health business, particularly in China. Church and Dwight is seeing steady demand for laundry detergent and personal care. Remember, this is the maker of OxyClean and Arm & Hammer. Chris, what do you think about staples in this showing today? At least looks positive.
Listen, it's a bombed out group, right? I mean, this has been off the playing field for the better part of the last 2 or 3 years. We thought by kind of late December, early January, there were pretty capitulative situations starting to show up in staples. I wouldn't say every name has turned, but we're focused on Hershey's. Cocoa prices have come way down. That's generally good for the stock. We've seen Tyson Foods start to turn. Coke is actually breaking out here. So I think there's opportunities to be selective within staples. I would stop short of saying I think the sector's on the verge of some massive leadership.
Yeah, buy Coke before the Super Bowl.
There we go.
No, I'm not joking.
And pizza.
You know it goes well with Coke, don't you? For Super
Moving
Bowls.
on.
I mean,
Brian,
come on.
go to
It's just-
Funyuns goes well with
Chris,
Coke.
you're like an AI for markets. I just love listening to you do
Wait,
the
what
Pleasure
was
to be
the
here.
phrase you just used?
Bombed out.
Capitulative
bombed out.
Capitulative
signals.
signal.
Capitulative. Only Chris
Capitulative.
Verone could
I
come up
liked
with
the
that
bombed
word.
out ahead of our bomb cyclone.